Um, so for my guy that I'm going with, this is another outfielder who might be over the height of 6'5", 6'6", who just for that reason alone, and maybe his swing look and like just the way that like his aesthetic is, Spencer Jones is my guy, who was picked, I believe, this year from straight out of Vanderbilt, and he's a lefty power bat, but he has, if you watch any of the clips of him, he's got these crazy athletic intangible tools that you can just see. Like he's built like a freak. And he just moves so smoothly out in the outfield, and his swing is very smooth, and it is like a lefty judge if you mirror him. This guy is coming out of the SEC, one of the best programs in the country and the world, with Vanderbilt. He's already very polished, and I believe that he's a guy that's going to skyrocket through the minors so quickly that the Yankees are going to have their hand forced a little bit. Do we want to trade him or do we want to bring him up? And there's going to be some hard decisions made in the next 2 to 3 years because of that. Probably 2 years, honestly.
Yeah. Um, a personal anecdote. Uh, Jake and I met playing at a baseball tournament together in Nashville, Tennessee. Um, on the Friday before our baseball tournament, I worked from the Vanderbilt campus because one of my friends went to Vanderbilt and she told me where to go in the library to blend in with the students so I could work remotely. On the way back to our house for the game on Friday, I walked through the Vanderbilt campus and I saw a Vanderbilt practice from one of the stands, and I walked by and I saw this man taking fly balls in the outfield who was tall, lanky. I'm like, this man is huge. And it turned out when the Yankees drafted him, I figured out it was Spencer Jones, he stands at 6'7", 6'8", the really smooth swing. And like you said, he is a first round draft pick, outfield bat coming out of Vanderbilt. So he's going to project to go through the minor leagues pretty quickly if he can perform well. From his little time in high A ball or probably rookie ball, I think last year he's projected to be in high A starting next year. Um, he looked good, and that transition isn't always good from college to the minor leagues with wood bats and whatnot. But his hitting projects out really well. I think he could quickly come through. He's very tall but very athletic. He has good speed, ranked at a 55 on MLB.com, all around the board. And yeah, I'm excited for him.
Yeah, I remember he got to rookie ball, and then they realized he's way too good for this level of play. Like really quick, within the first 2 weeks, his numbers, like he was batting around 500, and they were like, "We got to
Yeah.
move him up. We got to move him up." And the fact that he made that jump to high A already is crazy. So like he is going to be a guy that's going to come up sooner than later.
Yeah, I think he's being coached. He's in Tampa with Dalkovec.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's cool.
Yeah, I'm excited about him.
So we'll see how our outfield projects out going forward because I'm gonna jump on another top outfield prospect, and that is the Martian himself, Jason Dominguez. Um, and I almost don't want to talk about Jason Dominguez that much because of how much has been talked about him.
Talked about
Um,
so much.
yeah. But I think, unfortunately, well, or fortunately for him, I think now is actually the time where it's applicable to start talking about him. Um, Dominguez getting the Mickey Mantle comparisons when he's 16 years old is really unfair to him. But he's gone through the minor leagues and has been really good. I saw a few games of him in the Arizona Fall League where he was just raking, but like both sides of the plate. Um, and the Fall League has the best talent that's available in the minor leagues. Um, and he looked like an all-star within them. I think he made the Arizona League all-star team.
Yep.
Um, so my one concern with him is mostly because I haven't seen him a lot defensively. It's easy to scope out at bats of these prospects, but not watch full games. Um, he's played center field throughout his time. He ended the season in Double A. And that's his position right now. I don't know if that's to take advantage of his athleticism and train him to be a top corner outfielder, or if he projects in center field for the future. Jake, do you have any insight on that or any feelings?
I think that between Spencer Jones and him, if they both end up on the roster at the same time, which would be awesome. Like, don't get me wrong, it would be really fucking cool. But I think that given his size and stature, over time he would be better suited off in a corner outfield position. because he like the way that he's grown into his body is like some kids like Jones are very lanky and you can tell they haven't grown in yet. He was the opposite. He grew in so fast that I think he's still trying to hone in on his ability to move athletically out there and take the proper routes. And I think that a corner would be a lot more comfortable for where he's at right now, all in all.
Yeah, I agree. Like long term for him, has a pretty solid arm, nothing crazy. And especially, if we go back to Harrison Bader, if Harrison Bader's our outfielder of the future, um, you know, uh, Dominguez is projected to debut in 2024 sometime, so don't expect to see him next year. I think the Yankees should and will have the outfield cover then. We don't want to rush Dominguez at all, especially given all of the hype that he's gotten. Um, so we should see him 2024, 2025 maybe as a consistent starter. So we'll plan for that. Um, his power tool is listed at 60, which is about as high as prospects get. By the way, Volpe has a 60 hit and a 60 power. So
Yeah.
be excited for that. Um, and some level setting on the Martian too. Don't come. He's not going to be Judge type or Stanton type. He's not going to be a 40 to 60 homer guy. Think of it more as like probably a Manny Machado type. His power really comes in gap to gap doubles. He has some pretty solid speed. He hits the ball really hard, but it's a lot of line drives, which has been really good because his strikeout rate went down tremendously last year. So him getting that at bats, getting on base, like that's something that we want to see that's projectable. Because if you have a guy who's striking out at a high rate and in high A ball and hitting a bunch of homers, it doesn't exactly project on major league pitching. But he's been getting more consistency with his at bats.
Yeah, he could easily be like a 25 to 30 homer, 20 stolen base guy, which if you can get that out of him every year, I'll take that any day.
Oh yeah, 1,000%. Let me look
Yeah.
up his strikeout rate. Let's see. In 2021 in A ball, he was at a 31.3%. Across 2022 in double A, he was at 22%. In high A, he was at 18.5%. So
That's really nice.
that's
Yeah.
that's really good. So a 10% difference in 1 year. And his walk rate is still it's okay. I mean, 13%, that's pretty decent in the minor
I mean,
leagues.
the play is going to come. Yeah. Like, keep in mind, he was a very raw player when he first came up in the Yankee system.
Yeah.
So this is a year by year learning experience for him still.
And especially with these international prospects, um, just the way a lot of these guys come through at the level of Jason Dominguez and guys that get signed in that 3 to 5 million free agent range, these guys are fostered by the major league academies from the time they're 11 years old. So they're not doing your standard
Yeah.
travel ball circuit, high school circuit. They're really in development baseball until they reach the minor leagues. And even in the minor leagues, they've never really played games that like you're playing to win. It's all for development, which has pros and cons.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They
but
haven't faced they don't have that competitive edge necessarily yet, just because they haven't been in that situation. So that sometimes that has to be learned, not immediately brought in.
yeah. So yeah, exactly. So between the competitive differences, language barriers, which you really have to give credit to these young guys that come in and learn English or go into a completely different environment away from home. But by all accounts, he's not going to be a bust. He won't be Mickey Mantle. If he is, play this back. I'd love to be wrong, but um, he looks like he could be a solid and even an all-star level player. So that's my
If he
pick.
can beat Machado, that's fucking awesome. Like, if Machado is as the ceiling is fantastic.
Yeah,
You know,
Hall of Fame level ceiling, not too bad.
Gold Glove action out there.
Right. Um, Actually, I'm gonna talk about um, one more outfield pick.
Cool.
And I think it's an interesting conversation because we kind of danced around it when we did our roster building.
Yeah,
And he's borderline even a prospect. I'm gonna go with Everson Pereira.
that's what I was thinking.
He is MLB ready. Is he Yankees ready? I'm not too sure. He's gone through the system. He played in AAA pretty much all of last year. He has a good power tool. He's a righty hitter. So it's really interesting because, Everson Pereira has been much more highly touted. He's played a lot of center field, but he kind of bounces around the outfield in the minors. But we have Oswaldo Cabrera up, who's proven that he can hit at this level. Um, and so do we want to put Everson Pereira into our outfield? I guess he would fit in as a left fielder, God forbid a right fielder.
Yeah.
He has two options. Decent pop, nothing to write home about. His K rate has gotten progressively high throughout the minor leagues. That's been a big tipping point with him. In 2022 at Double A, it was a 30.1% K rate. And that's something that's really tough for a guy who he only walked at a 7.3% clip. It is only 123 plate appearances, but if we extrapolate also out his time in Tampa and high A, it was a 26.8 strikeout rate with a 10.5 walk rate. So in terms of being MLB ready, I don't know that Pereira is the type of bat that you want to put in for a minor leaguer. I think he could use some more minor league time or be elsewhere, especially when Oswaldo showed um, how much of a contact bat he can provide and how ready he is to hit major league pitching quicker than anticipated.
Yeah, I think he's a very compelling player. Just because like there are a lot of tools there that you can use and you can build upon. But at the same time, I just think that with between Bader being there and then also Judge potentially being locked up or whoever they lock up for the outfield, and we talked about Spencer Jones and um, Dominguez. Like I don't think there's space for him to be like honest about it. And I think he is better suited as a trade chip at this point in his career.
Yeah, and he's a guy I hope he does well just for his own career. In minor leagues, I know teams don't necessarily read into stats that much. They would read more into the advanced stats. I think the walk rate and the K rate are things that they do look at though on like the simpler stat side. So I hope he does well. I hope he can perform in the minor leagues, and I hope he can be a good trade piece because I think um we're gonna have to go all in pretty soon. He doesn't have a long-term spot in our team, so I don't think we would miss him as a minor league prospect necessarily.
Not really on the positive side, but I do want to say Estevan Florial. I think that he's on his way out. I just don't see a spot on this team for him anymore. And I think that the Yankees might have stunted his growth as a potential piece for them in the immediate future. So I think he's just better off with a change of scenery at this point, which sucks because he was very likable going through the system, and he's like someone that everyone was excited for.
Yeah, and I think it's telling to our process that we talked about two outfielders over Estevan, or three outfielders actually, over Estevan Florial, who's been a top prospect in the system. And I think he's gotten it. It has been tough on him, some of the situations we put him in, because he hasn't gotten full run, but he has gotten 1 to 2 weeks of run. And even though he has really good stats, if you look at his AAA and AA, some of those power numbers, he does hit high average. He has a pretty long swing, and you can see it from the eye test and also from his performance statistically at the major league level. Really high strikeout rate. Doesn't have very good plate vision off of some of these MLB arms, and that's in the stadium and on the computer. So yeah, I do think Florial is out. I hope he can maybe play himself into a good trade. Because I do think he can be a major league player somewhere that's not necessarily trying to win right now. And he does have that potential. We just don't have time for him, I think.
Yeah, and I think that he will have a solid start to the season, maybe a slow start, and then he hits up just in the time for the All Star break to come.